someone having a receipt doesn't mean the person will fail in life. That's the truth.
Okay, so if you were to attribute your academic success to one thing,
One
what
thing.
is that one thing you'd attribute it to?
Well, for me, honestly speaking, God is at the center of everything. When I say that, people may want to tend to belittle it, but I know there are times that I get insight that people around me may not
This could have only
exactly
been divine
get. Do you
revelation.
get? Yeah, and the directions I get sometimes, maybe even to materials to read, how to write, and all of that, it's during the program. It's not my mentors. I just talk to them at the beginning, and that's it, and then I give reports at the end. All through the way down to the end, I know that there are some, because I'm not in my class, for instance. Yes, I made the commitment to be transparent during my medical school journey, meaning you would see me going to read. I'm not the type that would hide to study and all.
Sorry, GP. I have to say this. In medical school, people hide to read. People deny ever reading anything. Like you see people going to be like, you're going to read. Say no, I just want to do one or two things. But you're going to read. Some people even tell you how which material. I never see
Yeah,
this
and they've
material
read
in
it
my life,
three
but
times
they've
already.
read it. Like people lie, but people read. People are putting in efforts, like beyond what you're seeing. Like people are putting a lot of effort. So GP is one of the people that he doesn't hide to read. But sometimes people want to hail you that you're going to read because they actually want to mock you with it. I feel like GP has been able to transcend that level because you
Yeah,
can't even mock
I
him
don't
because
care.
he does so well. So
Yeah,
people actually hide to read. So if you're going to be using your classmates as a yardstick, you might actually be making a mistake because
very big
you're
mistake.
not seeing what they are doing. Sometimes you come to class and you're reading and people are looking at you like they're trying to discourage you from reading, but behind closed doors they've done a lot of work. And then you who is just like this is like the first attempt at you reading this particular topic, you're feeling like, oh, nobody's even reading this thing. Let me rest. But somewhere behind, they've actually put in the work. So
So
sorry for cutting
yeah,
you short. I just
that's
felt
fine.
like adding that part.
So yeah, it was a commitment I made to with myself, that I'm going to be transparent all through this journey. So I wouldn't you would always see me sort of on the move with my bag, and there is no denying the fact that I'm going to study. And I think another day, we need to have the conversation about the characters in the medical school. It's very important, because um unintentionally, people are not living up their potentials, even just because of what people say. Maybe it's a joke to them, but I know many times, even up till final year, I've had people just say nasty things to me that they might take as a joke. And if I respond the way
It
I
made you
should
feel, yeah.
respond, it made me feel, it might just be like, oh, I'm taking things, too seriously. So I learned just to keep quiet and not allow it affect my mindset, sort of. So coming back to what we're saying, I am very much aware that there are persons who read more than me. No jokes. I'm also very much aware that there are persons who, like for me, I'm the reserved type. You get, people do a lot of things in the clinic, in class, and all. I'm not the type that even most lecturers would know by maybe name. It's just maybe somewhere towards the end they might not be like, oh, who's this student,
What he's saying is that he
and all of
doesn't
that.
really answer questions like all the time to
Yeah,
shine. You know
because
how
it's,
they
it's
ask
not my
questions.
nature. It's
You
not
know,
my
you want to
nature.
show off.
So if that's your nature as a student, it's fine. But sometimes people go overboard because they want to be known.
That is
They
standard.
want their face to be known. Or when I go for the exams, they will pass
It
me
works. It
and all
works
of
for
that.
some
It does
people.
it
Just
does work.
know what works for
Just
you
be
and
yourself,
exactly.
basically. That's the point. So I also decided at some point that I was not going to act like what I'm not. You get, and in the midst of everything, I know God's grace has been that defining factor for me. So this will not be like my counsel to you. Be transparent. There's no need, hiding. And there are things people would do that would even make maybe God not favor. Because aside the fact that they say, oh, you read, you read, you read, there are thousands, okay, maybe not thousands, but I'm
A
exaggerating
lot,
now, but there are
yes.
lots of times I know that God's favor, has come true for me. This is not denying it, because when we mention God, it's not now an excuse for those people who believe in grace to just be like, oh, God will take care of it and become lazy. No. God is a God of principles. So I follow the principles and he just, finishes it off. That's it.
So one last question. There could be someone out here watching this video and thinking, okay, I've heard everything that you've said about having like targeted reading, drawing out a plan, getting to hear from senior colleagues, knowing how to implement it, knowing what you're supposed to read for how to prepare for your exam and all. What last advice would you give to somebody who is like trying to struggle? Because if somebody has failed an exam once, okay, you can be like, I'm going to get to this other time. But it's even more painful when the person has failed more than once. Do you understand? So this person is probably repeating a class. And I feel like there is something people don't say about failure. The fact that I could be wrong, it's not engraved in stone or anything, but this is what I think. That the more you fail at something, the easier it is for you to keep failing at that particular thing. Because there is this bad energy, there is this thing that makes you feel like I'm probably not as good as I imagine myself to be, right? So you just take a back seat. Let's say you've read like 4, 5, 6 hours in a day for a particular exam and that you don't pass that particular exam. Chances are the next time you're going to come to write that exam, you might not want to put in that amount of work because you're saying the first time I read like 5 hours and I didn't pass. So what makes me think that reading even this same number of hours? So you just get all laid back and somehow you see yourself that you keep going through that same spiral, like you just keep not passing that exam, right? So what word of advice would you give to somebody who's really struggling?
So I know people very close to me who had issues. I've also spoken with, pardon me, students who have, had issues. So um, I think there are phases in the reaction people have to failure. Now it mirrors the stages of grief, that we talk about: denial, anger, there is
Bargaining,
bargaining, depression, and then finally
acceptance.
acceptance. Now I want to say that your feelings are valid. That's the truth. You have you have every right to probably be angry at some point. Yes, it's okay. Maybe at the beginning, one is like, oh, this shouldn't have happened. And you're looking through everything. Oh, I did my best. I can't find a loophole. All your feelings are valid. You have a right to feel the way you do. But the honest truth also will be that you have to move on. You have to make progress from that point where you are in now. Now, aside all the stages of grief, I've also seen that the challenge people have when they fail in school, maybe it will revolve around three things. One is criticism. Now, criticism in this sense now, it's people's opinion. So I've had students come to me and their pain is not just about failure, it's about what people are saying. Imagine someone telling you, oh, you failed because God wants to humble you. I'm like, really? Really? Can how
Like
how
really?
nasty
Oh
can
no,
people be?
that's
Is it through failure God will teach you humility? The Holy Spirit by himself can teach you humility.
not
You
having
get
you to
you get
fail
my
the
point
exam.
without having you to fail the exam. Yes, I know there's a conversation about pride and all of that, but even if you shouldn't be telling that to someone that just failed an exam, you get, and then everybody now seems to have an opinion as regards why you fail. So they are coming to
Give
advise you,
advice.
and whole. So that's why even for me, when people have issues, I don't call immediately. I don't reach out immediately. You give them time to sort of walk through it and just ease off and calm down before you need to ask questions first. You don't just start throwing things at them. Hear what they
First
have
of
to say.
all, unsolicited advice.
Exactly. So this is why I said we need to talk about the human interaction and the characters in medical schools, because I feel like some of these things need to be out there so that those who are doing the wrong things should be aware that you shouldn't be saying this kind of things to people when they have issues. And also those who have issues should know that you don't have to hear
Yes,
everything
yes,
people have to
yes.
say. You have a right to not pick a call, irrespective of who the
Who it
person
is?
is,
Yes, yes.
doctor, senior colleague, whatever. You need to create that safe space for you to thrive mentally. So people deal with criticism much more than even the pain of failure. And then we have rejection during the walking the path of a receipt, of failure. I've discovered that people tend to be very lonely that
Isolated.
period because every other person has moved on. That's how the school is. Every other person is excited about passing and they are just going on with the new class. But in that period of loneliness, you might just have one or two people walking the path with you. And trust me, if you have one or two, you're blessed.
hold
I
them.
mean,
I mean,
yes,
it's
those one or two persons that are consistently coming around to check on you, probably even do revisions with you and all of that. If God sends you angels like that, just hold them very close and cherish them.
just people might also want to reach out, just like what we were saying, but then they also do not know how to
Exactly.
approach
They
you.
do
So
not know
it's
how
not
to
necessarily that,
approach
oh,
you.
people deserted you or anything. Sometimes people also want to reach out, but just like we were saying a few seconds ago, sometimes you also need your own time. People deal with grief differently,
Differently.
people recover at different paces. So these people might actually be waiting for you to reach out, and then for you to know that they're actually there for you. So it's actually different for different people.
And then also there's the pressure. I feel like it's fine if our lecturers say this because at some point it has to be said. I feel like in medical school in particular now, results should not be posted for the public to see. That's my honest opinion. If you take away the fact that results are posted, 90% of the torment of failing is
It's true.
gone.
It's very
If
true.
your results
It's
will be sent
to
to you
your email, yeah,
privately,
or
you
something.
won't even know that some people had
Yeah.
receipts. They will just
Like
be in the class with you
minding their
learning. They'll go and
business.
write the exam and everybody
It's
moves on.
actually
But the
true.
fact that
It's
it's made
very
public
true.
and the whole world literally
People now have
knows, do you
statistics. They
get, and
say
everything.
50 people, 10,
So
like,
in some
yeah.
schools already in Nigeria, they don't do public show of results. I mean, it's just too much psychological trauma.
It's a lot.
Why? The
It's a
world
lot.
has
It's
moved
a
on,
lot.
from all of that. We need to save people that all that stress. Failing is not supposed to be a very big deal.
Grand.
But in medical school, it's a big deal because of the fact that the result is posted, all the tension that happens around the notice board. Some people are playing music and jumping, other persons are crying, walking away, being consoled, and all of that. So the pressure surrounding the result is another factor that makes it more
To
difficult to
deal
cope
with.
with. People sometimes run away from the hostel, after the result comes out, they just go and cry themselves out and everything. So that's another factor that comes into play. But having said all of that, now it's important that we talk about dealing with, failure now. So yes, you've gone through all the stages of grief, you've heard all the nonsense people have to say, you're having to deal with the pressure. So what is the right approach? Okay, now it's not the first time that people would have receipts in school. I hope that's not hard to take, but it's the honest truth. But that's meant to be an encouragement. There are people who have failed, repeated, it doesn't have to go that, it doesn't have to get to that extent for you. But my point is today they are doctors and they are doing
It might
very,
even
very
be
well.
just, let me say just, it might even just be a test that you wrote that you didn't do as well as you wanted to do. It doesn't really have to be like waiting for the main medical board exam and then not passing and all.
So don't just focus on the present. I know for the brilliant student, this might be difficult to take in, but it's the truth. Someone having a receipt doesn't necessarily mean the person will fail in life. That's the truth. But I know in that at that point in
That's not
time,
what you want to
yes,
hear.
that's not what you're thinking. Because
Because
I've spoken with
you're
students that
wondering, why
fail.
can't I pass the exam and still succeed in life? Do
Ex-
I have to fail for
exactly.
me?
So it's not a prereq. It's not that you
Mutually
have to
exclusive. You
fail.
have to now fail for you to now
Exactly.
become
But you should
successful.
also be aware that the fact that this experience happened, it doesn't determine your future. That's the truth. It doesn't determine your future. Yes, you have defined yourself, in the interim by that experience, but you have to move on from it. And to do that now, you need to have the right people around you, maybe one or two persons to really
100%.
encourage you,
100%.
and pull you out of that state. You don't want the exam usually is 3 months to prepare for a receipt now. You don't want to be in that place on the ground, for 2 months out of the 3 months.
It's not good.
Let's say 2 3 weeks, you need to snap out and just come back into reality. And you will need persons around you. If you have one, trust me, that one can be enough. That would just help you just get back on your feet. Once you're on your feet, you would know when you're on your feet. All the motivation and everything is back. You need to have an aim. It's very important. If you honestly now look back and you can identify where things went wrong, your goal in this second preparation is to fill in the gaps because no one does the same thing twice
I'm expecting a
expecting a
different
different result.
result.
You get, so you need to identify the areas where you probably did not do things right and now correct those wrongs. as well as all the other things we've talked about, identifying, in the different components of the exam, what is likely to come out. Having identified all of that, how best do I do what is likely to come out? So, because now also there are people we said initially that are very intelligent, but they have issues just maybe because of organization and the way the clinical exams work, or even any exam. There's an expectation, you get. So let's say there are 10 questions and someone is doing poorly in all of them. 4 over 10 now. 4 4 5 4 3 2 1. You see that trend? That's the kind of trend that gets people to be on borderline, and it's usually very painful. But if your focus is to do exceptionally well in each of them, you can get a 9, 8, 7, 3, 7, 8, 9. And at the end of the day, that one station you had an issue with doesn't count at all, because you showed excellence all around. So it doesn't mean that the super intelligent student, sometimes I know there was a station in this exam, even maybe like two in the different courses now, that you know I really did not do even maybe up to average. But I knew there
Just
were
you did
others,
better.
yes, that
Balanced
went
out.
superbly well. So it would always cancel out. So when you're going for the exam the next time, prepare to be excellent. Practice over and over again. Shut out the distractions, whatever it is that is consuming your time, that is not contributing to the success of that exam. That's another thing that we need to know. Um, Sometimes we complain about the time is not enough. And I may not say it frequently, but I feel like you have to make sacrifices. So if it's social media,
Yeah, something
whatever
has
it
to
is
give.
that you need to shut out just for that period of time, please take every necessary action to make sure that you're maximizing, your time. And don't go around people that will talk you down. Don't go around people that would emotionally drain you. I've seen people fail and they're, you know, in my presence, someone is telling them, like, oh boy, good as you feel, you go at least follow us, do the ginger. We go need person like you to encourage. And I'm like, how do people have this
That's so
kind of stuff come
insensitive.
out? And the person, this is being said to, might just be laughing. But I know deep down
No, it
he or she
hurts.
is
It
not
hurts. It
happy.
hurts a lot.
It hurts a lot. So you don't want to go around people that would give you negative, energy at all. And then you can be accountable to a resident, to a fellow student, just to make sure that your progress is being monitored up till the end. Failing is not the end of the world. If you talk with people that are out there now who had issues in school, I'm not sure they probably remember the receipt, unless maybe they are gisting with their friends and, it's like now something to laugh about. Oh, but remember that time, we had this to deal with and all of that. So
And
don't just
yeah.
focus on the now.
Yeah, I also want to say that he was talking about having people around you. It might not be so many people, but you need at least one person, someone who believes in you. Because at that time, you're in a very low moment. You're beginning to like question everything. You're going back to your days and like, Jesus, how could this happen to me? Like, I'm this good. Do you understand? It's hard. Like, nobody who comes into medical school is an average student. Absolutely nobody is an
Yeah,
average student,
true.
right? So it's just usually an issue of, okay, you were not properly prepared, you didn't know, like you were not exposed to the kind of things that you were supposed to know at the time, you didn't approach your questions well. It's just either of these things, right? So at that time your self-esteem is already very shaky, right? And you can't, if you're going in for an exam, you have to believe that you can actually pass this exam. Like, this exam, they're not, it's not impossible to pass. In fact, I
Yeah.
remember when I was preparing for my final exam, I was talking to a senior colleague, because yes, I also do have colleagues that I reach out to and ask questions. And I'm like, I'm really scared. And she said, calm down, like, relax. First of all, you're intelligent. You've come this far. And I'm like, it's actually true. I've come
Yeah,
this far. I'm
that's true.
actually intelligent. And she said, you're not the dumbest person in that class. And that's the truth. You're not the dumbest person in that class, right? Of course, nobody's going to come out and say, I'm very dumb, but you're not the dumbest person in that class. And she said, if one person is going to pass that exam, that one person should be you.
Yes, that's the
And it's the
mindset.
truth. And it's the truth. You have
That's
to
the
get to the point
mindset.
where you tell yourself that, okay, this thing has happened, right? But I'm not dumb. I'm a very intelligent person. But it sounded different coming from some other person saying that to me. So at the point where you are right now, you actually need somebody who is going to look at you and say, you're good. Like, you're very, very good.
Yeah.
And once you have that mindset, it actually pours out in, it shows, even when you're reading, you have to like put out that positive energy, and you're seeing that I'm good. So you have to understand the thing that you're reading. Do you understand? It also affects how you approach your questions. So you're not approaching the question as a basic student now. You're approaching the question from these people have to be ready for me. Do you get? So it might sound like I'm trying to gas you up or anything, but this is actually the approach you should take. Once you have this disposition, once you have this mindset. But there was a time I was so down. It feels so bad. It feels very, very bad. And I had a friend who showed up and she was like, you can't be feeling this bad because of this. And this my friend, she's a high flyer. She started saying things to me about myself that I didn't even take note of. And that was the point where it was more like a turning point for me. And if you're going to read, don't read people who put you down, just like you're saying, don't read people who put you down. Read the people who
Don't be around.
don't be
Don't
around
be in
those
the same
people.
physical space with them at
You
all.
might even have friends, and these your friends are very, very good. Do you understand? There are people who are good, but they want to be the only good ones out there.
Yeah.
Do you understand? So all they want to do is to put you down. They want you to constantly feel like you're mediocre, that they're the only ones who are very good. You don't have any business with those people. Do you understand? If you're friends with them, it's fine. You can maintain the friendship outside the academic circle, but you need people who actually think that you have something to offer. People who look at you from a very good perspective. These are the kind of energy you need around you. So I feel like GP has done a lot of justice to this. I really appreciate having you on this video, and there's a lot that we've said.
There's more to be said, but
There's a whole lot more to be
you
said, and
we'll
I'm
make do
really
with
happy
this
I
for
had
now.
GP here. GP is an exceptional. I mean, he made five
Thank you.
distinctions, right? So everything he said here is very, very valid. Thank you very much, GP, for doing
Thank
this.
you.
And
Thank you for
if you're
having
watching
me.
this video and you're beginning to like doubt yourself, this is the time to actually get back up and start
Yeah.
running, because the sad part is life goes on, right? Everybody wants to know, oh, maybe you lost a relative or something bad happened that
Sounds harsh,
affected,
but it's the truth.
like as you're preparing for exam, something happens to you that affects your disposition. The examiners are not going to say, okay, let's give this person an exception. No, it's not a good place to be in, but you have to realize that life goes on and you have to pick yourself up and start moving as fast as you can. Thank you so much. I hope you found this video very helpful. If you did, please give it a thumbs up. Remember to subscribe
Like
to
and
my
subscribe.
channel and share it with your friends, even if they are not medical students. It's something that would also encourage anybody out there. So please feel free to share with your friends, your colleagues, and any other person who you think will be needing this video. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. I would like to have you more on my
Definitely.
other videos. And is there any way they can reach out to you? You said you're a life coach. Do you have a social media platform that
you'll
people
be
can
hearing from me in the coming months. In the coming
So you're
months, by
getting
God's
ready. You
grace.
should prepare for you,
Yeah,
right?
yeah, yeah.
All right. Thank you so much, guys. See you all in my next video. Bye.